Well fellas, it's that time of year again. Time to pay $80 for what's essentially a database update, because FIFA 20's here. And once again, EA has shown without fail that they're not for the players, they're for the profits. FIFA 20 continues to follow a trend of uninspired and unethical game development, and to be honest, I don't know what else I expected. This year's FIFA's release once again begs the question, why do people keep buying the same thing over and over again? What the hell is wrong with us? The issue lies with the fact that as football fans we want the latest squads and players, and there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is that EA is exploiting this while doing dick all to actually update their annual franchise, and all the while pulling in that sweet cashola. And FIFA 20 is no different to the games that have come before it. With a game engine that's ultimately worse, a career mode that's got no meaningful additions, and not a whole lot more to offer than that, there's really not much to like about FIFA 20. Overall, I found the actual match engine to be quite similar to last year, except certain parts of it which were just worse. To be perfectly honest, we've paid for a downgrade. In an effort to make the game more realistic, players seem to take a dive every now and again. It's just like the real thing. In general, I found that players were slower to pivot or turn around, and often was the case that when you switched to a defender who was running, even if you're already holding sprint in that direction, they'd just stop for a moment, which really opened you up defensively. Defending is something I've given up hope on being improved for a while now, considering I know that EA are obviously scared nobody will play Ultimate Team online if there aren't at least 10 goals scored every match, and I wasn't surprised to see it being shit as ever in FIFA 20. Defenders still have absolutely no clue how to deal with through balls straight up the middle. It's exactly the same as FIFA 19 was, and I think part of it is how sluggishly defenders can pivot. Crossing, however, is far more ineffective than it used to be. Players just do not seem to know what to do with their heads. Corners are so much less dangerous now, you might as well just keep the ball on the ground. If you can't tiki-taka like Barcelona, you're already at a massive disadvantage. Honestly, I've scored more headed goals in the new Volta Mode than I have in 11-a-side. It's ridiculous. Corners are basically pointless now, and playing with the big striker up top and trying to score aerial goals is completely futile. It just absolutely boggles the mind to think that a team of developers playtested this, surely realized how utterly unviable heading and corners are and thought, nah, that doesn't need tweaking, and released the game as it is. The AI also just really spills their lollies sometimes, even on ultimate difficulty. Penalties, tap-ins, you name it, they'll fuck it up. Goalkeepers are still, well, what you'd expect from FIFA goalkeepers. I can hardly say they're any worse than last year, but they certainly haven't improved. Probably the only improvement would be the penalties. They actually go in more than a third of the time compared to the last game. So long as you do them right, of course, something the AI hasn't quite mastered yet. Free kicks, however, are really convoluted, I would say unnecessarily so. I could hardly even get the right stick to do what I wanted it to do most of the time anyway, and while I can appreciate that they're actually trying to improve this mechanic, I don't think the way that they've done it is quite spot on. Now let's talk about career mode, something that's been largely neglected by EA over probably the last 4 or 5 releases. And FIFA 20 is no different. For starters, it was practically broken on launch. Teams would basically field a full team of reserve players for league matches. It seems to have been fixed now, but it goes to show how little quality control goes into career mode before launch. Now this year's big addition is the morale mechanic, which is supposed to be a little extra challenge for you to manage your players' morale in order to keep them happy and give them a stat boost. Now when I say challenge, I actually mean cakewalk. It's far too easy to keep all of your players happy, even those that aren't playing at all. In fact, I could often keep reserves happy while some first team players were just content. The morale system is broken just because all it does is provide a constant buff to your players. The press conferences and post-match interviews are basically just dumbed down versions of the ones from Football Manager, extremely repetitive and were often full of misinformation, telling me I was undefeated when I very clearly wasn't. There was also basically just a right or wrong option to choose, a few that either increased the morale and one that decreased it. There was no risk or reward and you could say whatever you wanted to keep your players happy with no genuine repercussions. They've marketed this as though it's a fucking Telltale game and all of your choices will have consequences. Pro tip, they don't. It's just a little gimmick that EA have slapped on the top, lazily implemented and said, oh look, new career mode feature. The board expectations are still as dumb as they have been since they were first added in a few games ago. They don't scale down depending on the league you're in and are often there simply to restrict you and just don't make a lot of sense. Why the hell is my league performance low priority? The Youth Academy system is still as broken as ever, and they still seem to have a pool of about 10 names for generated players to get. It also shits me that all Australian youth players just have generic Anglo names. Like, for Christ's sake, EA, can you really not just add some names to a list? Is that too difficult for you? At the very least, you can now actually customize your manager instead of just picking from a wall of generic faces, but there are still so many more features that could be added to it. Stadium upgrades, proper player contracts and clauses, actual competition rules, and if you're gonna have this morale mechanic, why not pre-game and halftime team talks? Plus, it's all well and good to be able to change what my manager looks like, but it didn't stop me from wanting to punch him in the face every time I saw him. Overall, career mode is still more or less the same thing as it has been for the last 5 years, with even more lazily implemented bullshit plastered over it, so that EA can pretend like they've actually done some work for once. Volta Mode is a nice addition. It's always good to have more game modes, and it offers a fun alternative to the standard 11-a-side game. It's a lot more fast-paced and chaotic than the game we're used to, and I suppose people might like that, but it's all basically tied to a story mode, which when they got rid of the journey, I thought that EA finally realized nobody gives a shit about their story modes, but I guess I was wrong. Also, I made my character's nationality Australian, right?
Yes, way to show the world what we can do.
Yep, that's a fitting accent. Plus, you can hardly claim that adding another game mode is enough to justify charging us full price for this game, because plenty of other games add extra game modes without having to do so, and they usually already have more than one. They also brought back the ability to create players, which is nice and all, but that was just an old feature that was taken out of the last couple of games, and now it's back as a new feature? Thanks for that, EA. Ultimate Team is still Ultimate Team, nothing more than a money-making machine for EA on top of the $80 entry fee they already take from us every year. Except now they've removed single-player seasons because... I don't know, why did they do that? The online community is still as classy as ever, and I am yet to actually play out an entire online match. So many of the animations and cutscenes and goal celebrations are still exactly the same as they have been for the last 5 or so versions of FIFA, and the graphics certainly aren't any more breathtaking than FIFA 19's. No, so get away from me. And in the cutscene animations, particularly the interviews, the facial animations are just unnatural. The lip sync is still really badly off as it has been in the last few games, and the length is still massively over-exaggerated. The game isn't totally devoid of glitches either. There were a few that popped up in my first 20 odd hours. There are players with game faces that have been recycled for the past 5 years, and all of the players who don't have a game face still share a pool of 5 different faces that have a haircut that's not even close to what they actually have. Also, what the heck is going on with Tom Aldred's hair? You remember when I said the commentary wasn't that bad in FIFA 19? I lied. I obviously hadn't played enough of the game yet. And FIFA 20 is no different.
Not there when needed, the goalkeeper as it turned out.
No, one or two of his defenders looking at him, having words, and you can understand why. Poor decision from him.
You really gonna blame the keeper for that, Martin? You wanna know how to instantly improve the quality of this game? You just gotta do this. The commentary, the sound design, the animations, it's all more or less identical to FIFA 19, as is the UI, which is really only different because it's been recolored. Still, we can't see the whole league table in career mode either. It's classic EA recycling, and it's something we've unfortunately grown accustomed to. But you know what? I wouldn't mind that so much as long as the actual match engine and different game modes had actual substantial updates to them, but they haven't. Career mode has had nothing interesting added to it, and the match engine is worse than last year's. FIFA 20 isn't revolutionary, it's not exciting, and it's certainly not a trendsetter, because it's still following the downhill trend that the FIFA series has been on for quite a while now. So after everything I said about this game, and after everything I said about FIFA last year, and everything I said about it the year before that, why did I buy FIFA? Why do I still play it? What the hell is wrong with me? Well, to put it simply, I still enjoy it. At its core, it's still a fun game, and I'm a fan of football. The majority of people who play FIFA are football fans, just like myself, and it's only natural for us to want to play with the latest squads and the latest players. EA know that, and the problem is that they're exploiting that. And they have been for years. For years, this game has been an annual cash grab, a minuscule change-a-thon, a database update. A database update that they'll slug you $80 for. Once again, career mode stagnates because EA obviously don't care about the mode that doesn't bring them in millions of dollars of extra revenue on top of game sales. And even Ultimate Team has stagnated because EA can't be asked to actually do some genuine game development. It just really shits me to no end that EA is still so easily able to charge us as consumers a full-priced game every single year, when the only real difference is that, ooh, it's red now! As I've said in the past, the big issue is the fact that it's still the best option out there. The only real competition is PES, and it's not exactly a godsend itself. Plus, EA has all the licensing and teams and... oh wait. Maybe if you stop buying it, they'd make the game better, is something that is said a lot, and I disagree. Maybe it's time we stopped blaming consumers for wanting a decent update with the latest squads and players, instead of blaming the company that is consistently sitting on their ass doing nothing for an entire year and then raking in millions of dollars for it. But for the time being, it looks like EA is just going to keep getting away with releasing practically the same game with very minor tweaks and updates every year, essentially a patch and database update that they're charging us full price for, and it's all our fault because us dickbags keep buying it. I say it's time for EA to get off their ass. Time for them to add some worthwhile updates to the game engine, to at least pretend like they're putting an effort to career mode, and to let me have my goddamn Whooper badge in Ultimate Team. And until then, I'm not gonna play PES 2020 either, because fuck Konami. How can I play their game when they did my boy Kojima like that?